Hey guys, so now we have another video, and this time I want to show you what are the top decks that you might expect in the Battle City format. Now this is meant to showcase what you can expect in the upcoming $500 tournament that's gonna happen sometime later today. So join Speed League if you want to play in it. But yeah, this is meant to show you the top decks that we're gonna play that people could expect and how to counter them, how they play, and how you can counter them. We're gonna have more videos today, so I understand that many of you might not want to waste time in watching videos, and so if you still want this information, I will give you the link to the document so you can just skip. Don't watch the video, you can just read the information and it's all there. But yeah, anyways. So first off, we have conflict decks. So it's like 50% of the decks is playing inner conflict. So you have to watch out for this deck because it's gonna be really common. People like inner conflict a lot. So yeah, usually they play dark monsters, so they have a dark engine with Breaker, they have Geico, Apprentice Magician, with Old Vindictive and all the other targets, and then they play for sure, they have to play Sphere Karibo, because then they play All Over Darkness, or something like that. And then usually they play three to four Monarchs. Now again, Monarch is a monster, a one tribute monster, not really the archetype of the Monarch. But yeah, they usually play Grandmark, Dark Red Enchanter, Blowback Dragon, Kaiser Lighter, Jinso. I made a video reviewing all the Monarchs, so it's gonna be in the description if you wanna check it out. But yeah, it gains a lot of advantage to taking your monster, potentially using the effect, and then tributing for a tribute summon, and then the tribute summon somehow gives you advantage, so that's their win condition. But they can also OTK you because it's a 4000 Yu-Gi-Oh, and then if they have one monster on the field and then you don't get rid of it, if they use the skill, they're gonna have lethal. So that's why people play Sphere Karibo, that's why people play Book of Moon, so they can stop the OTK. Now, because they play Breaker, and because a lot of the Monarchs need to be face up in order to do something, so people could play Floodgate Trap Hole, so they can counter, because they can't counter the skill, but you could counter what comes after the skill. But if they play Jinso, so it's happened to me that if I play Floodgate and they play Jinso, I get an OTK because I don't have Book of Moon at that moment. So yeah, but there's no reliable way to counter the deck, especially because it's just so many decks play inner conflict. Like, it's not just the dark package you can play. There's conflict warriors, but they're not seeing much play. It's mostly the dark package, but there's a lot of ways to do the deck, and there's even people playing Banish Other Radiance, so this will make their OTKs more successful because they prevent Sphere Karibo from activating. But yeah, these are two of the best decks. Now I'm showcasing you decks from Speedo League, the Hall of Fame. I'm only showing you public information that's already out there, and I'm showing you the decks that I consider the best out of the ones from the public knowledge. But yeah, this is the deck that Frisky and Giantsbane played. So as you can see, there's the Breaker, there's the Monarchs, and then there's the Allure of Darkness and the staples. But yeah. Anyways, the next deck is Unions. Now, what they do is they play Union Hanger, Union Scramble, and then they just get monsters into the field. They fuse, they recycle through Scramble. So they gain advantage through that way. And they can fuse monsters using their spell trap zone, as long as they're not using the skill. If they use the skill, they can fuse from the graveyard or from their monster zone. But yeah, sometimes you can see them play Knight of Silent because they can discard loop. So one brings the other, one Knight of Silent brings the other, and they have infinite discards. But it's losing favor right now, so not many people play it in the main deck. Sometimes you can see rare Metamorph, but not many people play that. So how you counter them is that you should play in every side deck 2 Lost Winds, because they negate the effect, and then they don't care about skill immunity like other cards. Now I will be talking about skill immunity in another video today, so keep on the lookout. But yeah, because Lost Wind exists, if you play a fusion monster with your skill, or just in general, you should play them in defense mode in game 2 or 3, just in case they have Lost Wind. And you should also side Cosmic Cyclone to banish the Lost Wind. Now you have to keep in mind that if they use Book of Moon on their monster after or before they have been affected by Lost Wind, Book of Moon just takes the Lost Wind effect away. Other people are playing Kaiko or Banish Shroud's Radiance because the deck uses the graveyard to fuse, so you can counter it that way. But keep in mind that this is gonna trigger Scramble, so you don't want to do that always, because sometimes all they have is their graveyard and Union Scramble and nothing else. But yeah, this is the first place deck from Gian in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy single elimination, and this is Danik's deck. Moving on, we have Spellproof Armor. Now this is basically 3 Clausulas, because the skill allows you to normal summon any machine vanilla level 5 or 6 for free, and it's also immune to spells. So people play 3 of these, and then they just play other machines or whatever, and they usually play Jinso. Sometimes they play Soul Exchange to bring Jinso easier, because Jinso is immune to spells and it negates all traps, so it's a lockdown. And this deck is really dangerous because people are playing spells, especially Book of Moon, so it's gonna shut down all the spells that your opponent plays. Now you shouldn't go all out with spells in your deck building, because if you face Spellproof Armor, you're gonna lose game 1 most likely, and then in game 2 you're not gonna have too many cards to side in, so you can side out your spells. So because of this, I usually don't go with 5 or 6 spells. More than that, I don't play them if they're immune to Spellproof Armor, because when I side, I want to side as many spells as I can, so that I don't have to play them in game 2. But yeah, so Jinso is dangerous, but keep in mind that there's Sphere Kuribo, and Jinso has low defense, so Sphere Kuribo is a great card to counter Spellproof Armor, because Clausulas and Jinso, they both have low defense. You could also play Nidoria or Old Vindictive. But yeah, also be careful, some people play Poison Sword, and that could sneak a GG instantly. But yeah, this is a standard Spellproof Armor deck. And now here we have Danik's, a spicy Spellproof Armor with Unions. Alright, so next up we have Moth. And Moth, it's not used that much and it doesn't win you as much as it did before, but people are not thinking of Moth, so people sleep on Moth. And right now it has a lot of OTK potential, because now people could play Breaker and then blow all your back row, or Cosmic Cyclone, and then you can deal with the face down monsters now with Nobleman of Crossout. So the deck is more aggressive. Also Dark Moth, the Dark Moth variant, and keep in mind that Dark Moth means Moth with a lot of darkness. So that deck now has more bodies, so it's better than it was before, because the problem before is that it didn't have much in terms of body. It just had burn traps and then the skill. But anyways, you can counter this deck with Cosmic Cyclone, because since you banish the Parasite, they don't summon from the hand and they don't get the second effect. You can also use Mind Crush. So if you chain Mind Crush to Parasite, you're gonna discard all their Parasites. And because they never equipped, they're not gonna summon Moth from the hand. And Book of Moon. However, with Book of Moon, you have to chain Book of Moon, if possible, before the Parasite equips, so that they don't summon from the hand, and then they just send themselves to the graveyard. You should also play Sphere Karibos, because problem with Moth, if you play against it, is that because they play Breakers and Cosmic Cyclones, you can't rely too much on your spell and traps. So if you have Sphere Karibo, you can protect yourself from an opponent's Moth OTK better than if you have just Book of Moon and stuff like that. And lastly, because a lot of people or everyone should play Lost Wind in their side deck, you could also use it against Moth to cut the attack in half. I don't know how good is that against Moth, but yeah, it's just cool interaction. And then yeah, Moth is an engine, not a deck. So you can see a lot of variants of the deck, including Passman, which I'm gonna show you. And also Waking the Dragon, because the deck has a lot of back row hate. I think Waking the Dragon will have a good chance to be triggered against this deck. Anyways, this is my first place deck in the single elimination, and then this is Terra Master's YouTube video deck for Passman. Next off, we have Magnets, and this deck has seen less play. Usually they play 3 Deltas and then a few Vanillas and 1 or 2 Valkyrians. But yeah, their big threat, aside from easily summoning Valkyrian, is a Magnetic Field spell. And also they play Metaverse to search for the field spell. And that field spell, what it does is that it could bring a magnet from the graveyard if you have one on the field, and if a magnet battles, it bounces a card, a monster card that battled, to the hand. So because of this, Spellproof Armor is gonna be good against them, because they rely too much on their spells, especially the field spell. So you could also play Cosmic Cyclone, or even your Breakers could be good against Magnetic Field, but they're gonna play Book of Moon because they don't want your Breakers to do the job. So Cosmic Cyclone is probably the best counter you can have for them right now, unless you want to play Spellproof Armor, or unless you want to play Spell Canceller. Yeah, they're decent, but not as threatening. And Lost Wind, it could also work against Valkyrian. So since you play Lost Wind for Unions, You could also make it work for magnets because they do special summon from the graveyard also. So yeah. Oh yeah, I mean this is the deck from Arlequint and this is the deck from Gian. Yeah. And the last big deck of the format is the trap deck. Now this one, it because of the draw effect from the audience skill, that's how it gains advantage. Don't underestimate this deck. I lost to it twice in a row, and it's just because Soma is huge and the drawing is huge. So, and also because since they special summon monsters, so sometimes I can't keep up with the pace. So they summon 2 or 3 monsters and then they attack with all of them. Like sometimes I just can't keep up, and that's not talking about the drawing and that stuff. But yeah, I'm not saying you should pay too much attention to this deck because it hasn't seen much success yet. But if you want to counter it, because I consider this deck to be a problem, or not a problem, but a deck I shouldn't sleep on. So you could play Jinso, and then because that's gonna be like a board wipe for the traps. You could also play Cosmic Cyclone, and here is the Tensei's first place from the single elimination in Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy. As you can see, he played ways to remove your field with Breaker and Exiled Force, and then all these traps. Anyways, lastly we have the rogue decks, and I just want to mention them briefly because I don't think it's worth wasting more time in talking about decks, especially if you're probably not gonna face these, and if you do, you can still beat them easily without knowing what they're about. But still, I'm gonna mention them, and yeah. So we have Relinquished, and sometimes they play the skill Shadow Reborn, which works like a Monster Reborn, or they could even play Inner Conflict, because the Relinquish is consistent with pre-prep. Then we have Mass Beast. They could see play because they have a good matchup against Unions, although Unions could still easily beat them with the right hand. So I don't think Mass Beast is really good. And then you could have decks with Twisted Personality, which is the burn skill. Especially there's TP Warriors, which got first place in the single elimination. And then even Serpent Knight Dragon is kind of seeing success. So don't sleep on those decks. But don't play these decks. Like if you want to win, you should play the other decks, not these decks. But if you want to have fun and possibly win, then these decks are okay. But yeah, anyways, for the newer players of Speed Duels who don't know about these decks, I'm just gonna give you 3 tips. So first off, Relinquish and Illusionist Faceless Magician, they have a loop where if one dies, it revives the other. So read it carefully, the Illusionist Faceless Magician, read it carefully before you make any decision. Do not fall for the loop. People fall for the loop and they waste cards not realizing that they loop each other. Anyways, if you see them playing Merrick, then keep in mind that they're playing Shadow Reborn. Anyways, if you see the Loomis and Umbra skill, just know that what it does is that if you destroy Mass Beast with a card effect, they will bring Mass Beast Discardius for free from anywhere. And then if that's removed from the field, it doesn't have to be destroyed. They can bring a Massive Remnants from the deck, and they immediately equip and becomes a Snatch Steal. And like the Snatch Steal rulings, if your opponent has your monster and you use Book of Moon, they're gonna keep your monster permanently. So don't fall for that. Don't fall for Mass Beast. Know what the skill does. Anyways, lastly, if you see that your opponent summons Serpent Knight Dragon, don't let them. Just read the skill, Nightmare Sonic Blast. And these are the decks. This is the first place deck for the single elimination. 24 people participated, and this was my deck, so I got first place with TP Warriors. And then this is also my deck, third place with Mass Beast. And lastly, this is the Great Old Dudes. It's a first place deck for a locals that he played. So this is a Serpent Knight Dragon mixed with Relinquish. Anyways, that would be all, guys, and thank you much for watching. And if you think that this information is useful, share it to people who don't know, who are getting into speed duels for the first time, so they can know what's in the meta. But yeah, thank you guys.